So in the previous video, we were talking about the develop branch, right? And we talked about a lot of things, and then we ended at the point where repository maintainers can actually set the default branch to develop, right? So, and I've already explained all these parts, right, in the last video. So I'm before I continue, I just want to remind you that we have created a fork, right, for the GitHub training before. So in this case, I'm just going to create a fork for the GitHub training resource repository because that is the one with default branch, with the develop branch as the default branch. So as usual, your username will be here in the owner. The repository name, don't change it. So copy the develop branch only. Whether I leave this checked or unchecked, I still have the develop branch. So you can see the advantage when a repository maintainer makes the develop branch the default. That is when they want people who are contributing to that repository, when they want them to deal with the develop branch and they set develop to default. It's just easy, yeah, to retrieve the develop branch without forgetting, yeah, to do so. So I'm just going to create the fork. So I now have the fork for the GitHub training resource repository, and you can see that immediately I forked it, you can see that the develop branch is still the default here. So now if I go back to the GitHub training, right, the fork that we created earlier, right, and I go to develop branch. Remember that I said that anything you are doing as from this point onwards, you have to deal with the develop branch, right? So I select the develop branch and then I create a new branch from develop. Now that I'm in the develop, I now say test branch, right? You can see it says create branch, test branch from develop. So this is how I know that. Pardon me. So this is how I know that I'm doing the right thing, right? So I create this new branch called test branch from the develop branch, right? And then inside the develop branch, I make my inside the test branch I created now from the develop branch, I create a test file.md and then I say test as the content. I preview. I can just leave this there commit message. It makes sense to me at this point. And then I create a new file inside of test branch. And then I create my my new content, which is inside the test file. So if I compare and pull request, you can see that for the GitHub training, since the default branch is the main branch, uh, this base branch will just definitely say main. I have to manually change it to develop, right? Remember we said even the pull requests we send now, right, has to be sent to the develop branch. The base branch should be developed, right? So while all these others remain the way it is. So let's assume that I fixed a particular issue. I just want to assume that I fixed a particular issue. let me just say, okay, this is a pull request. Should I say issue 2? Okay, 5. Okay, cool. I guess this is an issue. Yeah, this is an issue. So let's say I link my issue, I do everything, and I'm okay with what I have here, right? And I look at the differences, I'm okay with it, I send the pull request. Right, so in this case, you can see that when we were making the pull request, I had to change the base branch to develop, right? It was main because the main was the default branch. So, but if I'm dealing with a branch that the develop branch is the default branch, like this GitHub training resource, when I create, hold on, let me create my branch first from the develop branch. So I will say test branch, create test branch from develop. So I'm creating this test branch from develop, right? And then inside the test branch, I want to add a file. Let me just say I want test file 2, and I want to say new change. And I preview. I'm okay with this change. I'm going to leave the commit message, and then I'm going to commit my new file in the test branch. So I make my change in the test branch, right? And then when I want to send a pull request, you can see that the base branch will just be developed automatically. I don't have to be the one to change it. Yes, so that's like the advantage of making for repository maintainers or owners of a repository. That's the advantage of making the develop branch the default branch. So, so if I check my changes and I'm sure that, okay, I've made the change that I want, I just send the pull request. And then that's it. So that's another advantage of making the develop the default branch when you are changing for the one where the develop is the default branch and you want and a repository maintainer wants you to interact with the develop branch, the base branch will always be developed when you are adjusting or setting where you want to uh, send your pull request to. The base branch will always be developed. But in the case of where main branch is the default branch, right, you have to manually go there and select the base branch. So in the next video or a couple of videos, depending on how this goes, we'll just complete uh, our lesson on the workflow, right, when using the GitHub user interface, and uh, all the lessons on the GitHub web user interface.